3, 2, boom, we're live. Welcome to another episode of Millennial Mindset.
Tonight's episode, guys, it's probably going to be my favorite episode because we're getting into one of my favorite hobbies, which is wine. And we're going to change it up tonight, guys, because we're always talking about positivity and we're always talking about the mindset, which are great things to talk about. But we also have other hobbies. One of my favorite hobbies is opening up a bottle of wine and enjoying a nice glass of cab. Okay. And so I know, Dalton, you're not a big wine drinker.
No.
I love wine. Amanda, my girlfriend, loves wine. A lot of our friends, my parents, they love wine. And I just feel like it's just nice just to open up a bottle, especially after like a long day of work, and just unwind, relax, and just have a glass or two, maybe more if you're in the mood. Yeah. And it's just a great way just to relax and socialize, especially if you're like going out to dinner. You know, you can complement a nice steak, a nice pasta, and you can enjoy it with some wine. So tonight we're going to get into what types of wines I like. Dalton's not really experienced with wine, so he's going to be giving this bottle a try and explaining it from a beginner standpoint. And also, too, we're not wine experts. We enjoy wine. We enjoy drinking wine. I have taken a wine class, but I am by far an expert on the subject. So we're going to kind of be teaching you guys from a beginner standpoint, and also some cool facts, too. Also nutrition facts that I didn't even know that Dalton knew. And he's going to be sharing that with you guys as well.
All right, so let's get into it.
So the bottle that we have tonight that we're going to be reviewing, I've actually had this before, and it is a really good bottle of wine. It's Miles & More. It's a 2017 cab from Paso Robles. So if you guys aren't familiar with Paso Robles, it's in Northern California. And most wines, you can get wines pretty much from all over the world. There are different wine regions. And it does make a difference. You know, I do like Northern California wines. We do have a local winery here in Southern California over in Temecula, and they have dozens of wineries. And we've explored several wineries. We've been on wine tours. And Dalton, you know, I used to rent party buses for our closest friends and family, and we would take a wine tour and just go explore the different wineries. So if you guys are ever in the Orange County area, you know, I highly recommend to go check out Temecula. And one of my bucket list things to do is go check out some of the wineries up in Napa Valley, up in Northern California, which is where this bottle of wine comes from. So where the wine comes from, in my opinion, it does make a difference. Not all of Northern California wines are good, but you know, that's a good starting point. I've had wines from, you know, different parts of the world, and I'm not going to name them because it's a very personal thing. Like, just because I don't like a particular region doesn't mean you're not going to like it. So there are some parts of the world that I've tried wines from where I'm not a big fan of. But like I said, just because I'm not a big fan of it doesn't mean you're not going to like it. So I want to kind of just leave that out and just try as many wines as you can, and just find out, you know, what you're into and what you're not into. In this particular wine class too, one of the things they taught us was the alcohol content. And I'm not a beer drinker, but I guess that makes you're into beer. And
a little bit. I like tequila if I'm going to drink, but one beer won't hurt.
Yeah, and like the alcohol content in beer does make a difference as well as it does in wine. Right. I know in wine, when we were taking this wine class, they were saying everybody likes different alcohol contents when it comes to wine, and the most common is anywhere from 13 to 14%. And I like a little bit more bold wine flavors. So I like around like 14%, maybe 14.5%. This past weekend, we did try a bottle of wine. It was at 15.5%. And that one was a little too bold for my liking. And it just packed too much of a punch for me personally.
I liked it.
Yeah, you did like it.
And I'd like stronger beer too, so it makes sense.
Well, and Amanda, she likes more of like the more fruity wine flavors, because when it comes to more bold wine, you're not going to get as much of that fruity flavor. You can in some instances, but she likes around like 13 to 13.5%. Not saying I don't like those. I do like them. I just like more of that strong, bolder taste. So let's go ahead, you know, and let's give, you know, this glass of wine a try. You know, and just for, you know, me personally, I always like to look at the color. And, you know, if it's a dark, bold red, usually that's a good sign that it's a good wine. I always like to smell it first. What does that smell like, Dalton?
Wine.
And it's funny too, because like people will talk about, I smell the cherry in there. I smell the chocolate. I smell the wood in there, the tobacco flavor, the coffee flavor. So there's so many different profiles. Me personally, it's like you, I smell wine. I mean, different wines do smell differently, but I just like to make sure it smells good. And there has been a couple instances where like I do the smell test first, and it doesn't really smell good, and then it ends up not being good.
Yeah.
But also the opposite too. I've had some wines where it like doesn't smell good, and I try it smells or it tastes really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
But like that's just a good starting point. Make sure it smells good, and you want to definitely use as many senses as you can to make sure you're capturing it from all angles. Yeah. So I usually like to swish it around a little bit, make sure. They always say, look at the teardrops coming down the glass. You can tip it over a little bit and just see the tears. And I think that has to do, I'm not sure the science behind that, but it has to do something with like the alcohol content, I believe. And correct me if I'm wrong, guys, put it in the comments below. And then I just go right into it. I give it a nice little taste. And
I like this one a lot better than we had the other day.
Yeah, this one, really smooth. I like it. It is bold. It is 14%, like we said. And
that's probably why I like it more, because it's a little stronger.
And this could be good for like an everyday wine. You can go out to dinner. Like I said, it complements a nice steak, have some pasta. If you want to, just relax, after a hard day of work, if you're just watching TV, this is a good everyday go-to wine. Mm-hmm. And Dalton, what's your opinion? You said you liked it a little bit. I mean, is there anything else, as far as taste, maybe the smell?
I like the little kick it has, because I know the last one, it seemed a little sugary. Kind of seemed like I was drinking grape juice or something.
A little more fruity?
Yeah, but this one seems a lot more, I don't know. Seems like I'm drinking wine, not grape juice.
See, when it hits your palate, it gives a nice taste. It has a nice full profile to it. And after it goes down, you kind of have that alcohol, bolder taste, right?
Yeah.
And I like that too. And everybody may not like that, but this is definitely a nice bottle of wine.
And what's the cost of this?
I believe it was around, I may be mistaken, I want to say around like $15.
Okay.
I'll look it up right now.
And where'd you get it at?
I think we got this one. It was either Beverages and More or Costco. But most of these wines, because they're so popular, I mean, you can pretty much get them at any store. But what we've noticed, the best prices is Costco. Let's see. What are some of the health benefits of wine, Dalton?
Yeah, so wine does have a lot of health benefits, actually. So if you drink it in moderation, it actually can be a superfood. And it's really high in polyphenols and resveratrol and quercetin. And these are compounds that help with longevity. It helps fight against free radicals, oxidative stress in the body. And a lot of people actually take resveratrol as a supplement because it helps with anti-aging, anti-cancer, helps energy, endurance. So yeah, one glass of wine is actually very healthy. And they actually did a study on, because a lot of people say it's good for your heart and all that. Well, they did a study, and it was 4 different groups. The first group was without wine and without any physical activity. The second group was with wine, without any physical activity. The third group was without wine, with physical activity. And the fourth one was with wine and with physical activity. And turns out the last group, the one with wine and with physical activity, was actually the healthiest group of them all. Even more so than the one with physical activity and without wine, which is really interesting. So wine combined with physical activity is actually very healthy for your cardiovascular system.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
I couldn't find the price, but I'm pretty sure it was around like $15.
Okay.
It might be a little less, might be a little more, and don't let like price fool you either. We've had bottles of wine that have been like $50, $80, $100, and they're like not really that good. And that's not for all of them, because I know there's really good bottles of wine that are really expensive, but just don't let like price fool you. You know, you got to go for, you know, what you're looking for and what you like the most. You know, there's been several bottles of wine, you know, that have been, you know, under $10, you know, $8, $9 a bottle, and I love those bottles of wine. So yeah, price is a starting point. Obviously, you know, you want to get into a price point that you're comfortable with, especially if you're going to have a bottle a night and you're going to be sharing it, or you're going to be drinking, you know, on the weekends. You know, you don't want to be breaking the bank, because it can be an expensive hobby. So just find a bottle of wine that you like and it's cost affordable. And then if you want to splurge every once in a while, you know, go get a $50 bottle, or, you know, it's the holidays or your birthday and you want to try out some of the more expensive wines, you know, by all means do it. Just don't expect that it's going to be the best wine ever just because of the price point. And that's one of the things that we've learned as well.
Do you know the difference between the more expensive and cheaper wines? Is it the aging factor? Is it
I think it's a couple of different factors. I think, you know, obviously the brand, you know, plays into it. You know, the more well-known brand and the more luxurious brand it is, obviously the more expensive it's going to be. And I think also the aging that goes into it. Obviously, you know, when it's aged better, as well as I think the production of it as well. You know, I think the aging and the process that goes into it, from growing the grapes to, you know, bottling the wine itself, when they take extra care and, you know, put more time into it, I think that's going to drive the price up. Obviously, you know, I think that goes not only for wine, but many other products as well.
Do you know what aging does to the wine?
I'm not 100% sure. And it's actually, there are studies out there as well, though, that, you know, we've been told, you know, the older the wine is, the better it is for you from a nutrition standpoint. And that's not the case at all. Actually, the younger the wine is, the better it is from a nutrition standpoint. That's because it has more tannins in it. So yeah, older wines are typically, you know, they taste better, you know, and they're aged longer, but from a nutrition standpoint, you know, they're not typically the best for you.
Yeah, the whole aging process is a little weird. Same thing with meat. Like how they age meat, how they keep it just enough to where it's not going to rot. But yet, you know, when you look at the meat, actually, when it's aging, the outside of it looks disgusting, but then the inside of it is like super good and tender.
Yeah.
It's just weird how aging makes it that way.
And it's crazy too, like how far back in history wine goes.
Yeah.
You know, like you can see it in the Bible. I know, like the Greeks and the Romans, you know, they used to offer wine up to the gods, you know, so you can see it throughout history, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah.
You know, and I know it goes back like thousands of years, and it's still with us today. And there's still, you know, one of the new trends is wine in bourbon barrels, you know, and I think it's good. I've had several wines. We just had one this past weekend as well, and I know you said you liked it. You said this one's a little bit better, but I think that's kind of like the new trend. And I think they're just trying to reach a bigger spectrum of people, of customers, just because, you know, I love whiskey, and I know a lot of people love whiskey as well that aren't necessarily into wine. But when you throw in, oh, you know, we put wine into bourbon barrels, you know, that's gonna spark some interest. And it definitely has sparked interest with me. And, you know, a lot of the winemakers are putting wine are aging wine into bourbon barrels, and some are good, some aren't so good.
What does that do?
Definitely putting me on the spot tonight, huh? I'm not totally sure what it does, putting them into bourbon barrels.
Makes it taste better.
But I it has to do something with just the profile of the taste. So I don't know. It makes a little bit of a difference, but it's not gonna. I think it's just more trying to reach out to a wider spectrum of consumers.
Because that's what they stored wine in way thousands of years ago, right? Is barrels.
Well, and they still store wine in barrels, but it's just the bourbon barrels. So that's typically what like they store whiskey in.
Oh, okay.
So it's a different type of barrel.
Huh. Interesting.
But yeah, you just kind of find out, you know, the wines that are good to you. And just because, you know, you like the 14%, try the 13.5%, try the 13%, try the 15.5%. That was like the highest alcohol I've ever seen. And we got that at Costco too. And so it came in a really cool bottle, and that's why we wanted to try it as well. But like I said, I mean, I don't know, I would probably get it again, but it wasn't my favorite wine. But it was definitely cool. It was aged in bourbon barrels. It had a cool bottle, and you have 2 glasses of wine and you're definitely feeling it just because there's a lot more alcohol in it.
Yeah, one thing I found interesting is that wine helps manage diabetes, and just because the sugar content in wine, I just found that a little interesting. But it's because all the antioxidants and
interesting,
all those things, and it helps prevent against Alzheimer's, improve cholesterol levels. So
one thing that I found interesting too, when we were doing research for tonight's episode, was that some red wines are better for you than others, and dry red wines are better than sweet wines. So obviously, when you have more of those sweet tasting anything, typically it's going to have a little more sugar in it, and typically that's not always the best. I didn't know this one. I found this one pretty interesting. Red wines with lower alcohol, preferably below 13%, are better than higher alcohol wines. I found that pretty interesting because...
Better quality or tasting?
It's just red wines with lower alcohol, 13%, are better than alcohol. So from a nutrition standpoint, it's better for your health. So, and I didn't know that. Amanda told that to me this past weekend, and I found that pretty interesting because I do like wines with higher alcohol.
I wonder if it's the alcohol itself that now, like the higher the alcohol content starts to kind of counteract all the nutritional benefit.
Yeah, that'd be pretty interesting to look into.
Yeah.
And then red wines with higher tannins are better than lower tannin wines too. So obviously there are some health benefits from it, and they always tell you, have a glass of wine a day. It's good for a number of things. Also too, like young red wines are better for you than old red wines, and I said that earlier, but I found that pretty interesting as well. Because a lot of people assume, this wine's been aged several years, they're going to assume that one's better for them as well. But one thing that I've learned too, it's just like trial and error, just try it out. Especially if you're just beginning with wine, you may try a bottle, your first bottle, you may say, this is really good. And then as your palate develops a little bit more and you start to learn a little bit more about wines, that bottle that you tried, you may not like, months down the road or even a year down the road. So you just got to experiment with it. I would say a good starting place would be just go down to Bevmo. They have their 5-cent sale. So you can pick up, a bottle of wine for the normal price, and you can get the second bottle for 5 cents. You can go to Costco, get several bottles of wine. I know you can go to Vons, and they have their 6-bottle deals. So you can buy 6 bottles, mix and match, and they come at a discounted price, which would be cool too, because then you can try different bottles, and since you get it at such a good price, it's not a big deal if you don't like one, and then you can find the ones that you do like and go back and just get more of it. But I think wine, it's a good hobby. I like it, especially when you socialize, and it's fun just to experiment, and just pinpoint the wines that you do like.
One thing I'm kind of interested about is if wine increases libido or if it helps intimacy with sex, because it's pretty popular to have wine on date night with the dinner. And
I think from like a social standpoint, definitely loosens you up a little bit. And disclaimer, drink responsibly and do not drink and drive. Do not drink and drive, and drink responsibly. But I think just from like a social standpoint, it does loosen you up a little bit.
And that's like any alcohol, really.
Yeah, but I think with wine, it's, I guess, considered a little more classy.
Yeah.
It's not like you're taking shots of wine.
Well, yeah, it's less alcohol. You're not gonna get sloppy.
Unless, you can, if you have several bottles. But I think it's just a nice way just to unwind at the end of the day. Go out and you can, like I said, you can experiment with it. And I know that's one thing Amanda loves to do, is she loves to go to the store and together and just pick out different bottles of wine, because there's such a wide variety, and they're at all different price points, where, if I go to the store to get whiskey, she's not so much into whiskey, so it's kind of, I'm just going there and getting what I like, and beer, you're not, I mean, you can drink beer on a date night, but if you're going to a nice steakhouse and you're getting a nice steak, typically a nice, like I said, a nice glass of wine complements it really well. So I don't know, I feel like just a lot of people in general just like wine. Not everybody, but I feel like a lot of people just like a nice glass of wine.
And for me, coming from a health and fitness, enthusiast, I would personally rather choose wine than beer just because of health benefits. So, end of the day, I'm going to choose wine versus beer. Beer makes me bloated. It has tons of things wrong with it too. But
the only thing with wine is it is pretty sugary, especially if you have like a couple glasses of wine.
Yeah.
That's one thing I notice is, just because of the sugar content in it. But, just like anything else, everything in moderation is okay.
Yeah.
It's just when wine, I like to mix it up too. If I'm going to go out and just like hang out, I'll start off with, maybe like vodka soda. And they say don't mix, alcohol. But I think that's if you have it in excess, don't have too much of it. But like I'll get like a vodka soda with lime. And then like when dinner comes out, then I'll get like a nice glass of wine. Yeah. And then I feel like pretty good by the end of the night. It's not like I'm pounding, the bottles, but
I've never mixed wine with anything. Because normally, if I drink too much wine, I tend to get a headache.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Usually, if I mix too much, if I have, like, vodka and tequila and all that, I'll get really sick. But I've never had, like, a glass of wine. Because I know what's the saying? Beer before liquor, never been sicker.
Yeah. And liquor before beer, always in the clear.
Yeah. And that usually, I pretty well with that. Yeah. That's pretty accurate for me. But.
And, like, the other thing with, like, wine, too, what's really cool is like you can go on like these wine tours. That's so much fun too, especially like I was saying earlier, you got Temecula, which is like an hour and a half away. And you just go and you check out the different vineyards, and the vineyards are gorgeous. Like if you guys haven't been on a wine tour, I highly encourage that. And you just get to explore, you go out on a nice day, and it's just a great time, and there's places up in Northern California, there's places in Europe, there's places pretty much all over the world, you can find vineyards. And there's just the history of it that you can learn, the different types of grapes, the growing process, where they store it. I mean, there's just so much. And then you can go with family and friends, and it just makes out for a great time too.
Yeah, it turns it in, wine is like an experience you can have.
Exactly.
Versus just any other tequila or whiskey or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I know there's other tours for, different types of alcohol, but there's just something about wine, it's, my parents are into it, one of my uncles, he's in his 80s, he's into it.
Seems like most wealthy people are. Like, you look at the celebrities, like Johnny Depp is buying, $30,000 a month of wine? Yeah. Something like that.
Yeah, so maybe, I just feel like a lot of people are just into it. And like I said, it's just a great way to unwind, Yeah. So if you guys want to get into it, I would say it's like a good hobby to get into, just because there's so much to learn and you can just have fun with it with your family and friends. But I do like whiskey too, and I know you can go on like whiskey tours and stuff, but not everybody, I feel like there's not as many people that like whiskey and other types of alcohol. I just feel like wine, it offers itself to a wider variety of people. And my girlfriend, we have some friends come over every Monday for Bachelor Monday, and they're always trying new wines every single Monday. Amanda will tell some of our friends, you gotta try this bottle, and then our friends will bring a bottle over. Sometimes they'll bring a couple bottles over, and it's just fun like that. Yeah. So never once have we ever done that with any type of alcohol. It's always just been wine for the most part.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of the fun in it too, is just mixing and matching and just checking, where it came from and the history and the vineyards, the company. It's just a good time.
Right. Yeah. Wine seems more romantic for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and you see it like in the movies too. Anytime there's like romance, there's always wine.
Yeah.
So
date night. Got a bottle of wine.
You have some candles. You have a good dinner. Especially like I love like the jacuzzi too. And just bringing out like when that's even more relaxation.
Yeah.
You get in the jacuzzi, you have some wine. I mean, there's really, you can literally like drink wine in any situation. Watching a movie.
Unless you're going out to a bar. It's
That is true. I mean, that's more like when you want to go on like party.
that's kind of separates wine. It's more classy versus every other alcohol is more party and getting drunk. And
Yeah, I think wine's more like more like relaxation, just kind of like unwinding at the end of the night. But it's been pretty cool, and I've tried so many wines. And so I kind of have, like I said, I'm no expert. I know what I like personally, but it's because I've tried so many different varieties. So like that's one thing I just highly recommend is just go on and start at somewhere and then just experiment with it.
Yeah.
And if you guys want us to do like more of these wine reviews, put them in the comments below. If you want us to do any other reviews, product reviews, supplementation reviews, anything, put them in the comments below and we'll have fun with it. And we want to not only encourage positivity and a healthy mind and a healthy life, but also some of the things that we're into, and some of the things that we can teach you guys, maybe, teach ourselves and just have fun with it. And this has definitely been, a fun episode. Look, we're drinking wine. This is what we're talking about, socializing, drinking some wine.
Yeah.
So there definitely will be future episodes of this. I liked it. We got to get Amanda on. Maybe, we'll get Ciara back on.
Yeah, she would love that. She would like whiskey.
Yeah, and maybe we can do some like whiskey reviews in the future. Tequila, yeah. So maybe we can try different alcohols. Yeah. Because I love different alcohols, but wine's definitely one of my favorite ones. So if you guys want to see anything in the future, put them in the comments below. Don't forget to give us a like, thumbs up, share our videos. Am I missing anything? Oh, subscribe. Got to subscribe.
Yeah.
And if you guys don't have access to YouTube, or if you guys are at the gym, you guys can listen to us on iTunes and Spotify. So don't forget to like it, subscribe, share it. Am I missing anything else?
Some quick hacks for you wine drinkers out there. So these are little biohacks to make wine even better. So if you can find a wine that's fermented, or the grapes are grown, at least 2,000 feet in elevation with better sun exposure, it increases the levels of resveratrol and polyphenol levels. And then if you can find a wine that's fermented longer, like 10 to 15 days, it boosts the polyphenol levels up to 10 times more than normal. And then there is a way to ferment wine if you adjust the pH, and it's able to have no sugar in it, and it still tastes really good. I think there's a fit wine out there that is fermented without sugar. So it's pretty interesting. I'd like to try that.
Yeah, we're going to have to review that in a future episode. Yeah. That is pretty interesting.
Yeah. So yeah, guys, make sure you hit that like button because it does help boost the YouTube algorithm, and it helps us out, gets that message out there.
And like I said last episode, guys, thank you so much for the support. And we're going to do our very best to keep putting out good content, keep having fun with it, and help you guys any way we can. And on that note, we'll catch you guys on the next one, and see you guys, Millennial Mindset. Take care.
See you guys.